Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for November 7, 2023. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Here.
GANDSEY?
Here.
Einstein?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Laporte? Here. Sawansky?
Here.
President Wallace?
Still here. We have a little bit of different format this evening, ladies and gentlemen, due to our very astute village attorney bringing this to my attention that we need to have this even at Committee of the Whole meetings. So, we are now going to open up the committee meeting with a town hall meeting at the beginning of every committee. So if anyone would like to address the committee at this point, kindly step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Would anybody like to address the committee? Chris, anybody online like to address the committee or John?
We do not.
Thank you, John. All right, moving right along, standing committee reports. First standing committee report this evening is the Community and Economic Development Committee. Chairman GANDSEY.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a Lake Street TIF discussion. So as part of the strategic plan's goal to redevelop revitalized properties along Lake Street, staff prepared a proposed TIF district boundary map and reviewed the future land use plan for the area. Tesca Associates has been hired by the village to perform a TIF eligibility study of the Lake Street corridor and is seeking input from the Committee of the Whole to discuss the preferred land uses within the district prior to drafting of the redevelopment plan. And I'll turn that over to Lee Brown from Tesca.
Good evening. It's a wave when we change the slides.
Mic on?
This is an opportunity to keep you informed. It's an update of what we've been doing and where we're going. The red line identified in our previous meeting as the likely boundaries of a new tax increment district. Since we last informed you of where we were at the time, there has been the opportunity for staff to discuss the potential annexation of properties along Lake Street that are not in the village yet, but would be important and valuable if we could include them within the TIF, recognizing that unless they annex into the village, it cannot be included. And Christie's using the magic hand to identify those in that sort of triangle area.
Can you make that any smaller? All right, so where's it at? Yeah.
We'll hopefully zoom in a little when we get into the land use.
Yep.
But staff have had positive discussions with the property owners, and it is looking good about the potential for including them in the TIF district, and that's a very positive thing for us. There will be a timing aspect to that until they formally annex into the village. We can't adopt the boundaries that are shown here, and we can work with the village board in terms of when to adopt the public hearing date. And that'll be something that we had originally intended for you to have the discussion and adopt the resolution to pick that hearing date in January. I think that we're still on track with that. The actual hearing would be something closer to 90 days after that. Next slide. So what we spoke about last time included our initial draft eligibility. Again, one of the things that we could not at that time was identify the fifth characteristic that is on that list. So we have found since then, the data is now available from the county to identify what the overall equalized assessed value is for the village as a whole, which means we can track it back to what that is compared to previous years. So if you're looking at that graph, it's indicating that in the years 2018, the years 2021, and the tax years 2022, the area within the red boundary that we're proposing for the TIF district either declined in actual EAV or relative to the village as a whole, which is the second to bottom number. So in 2018, the area in question declined in equalized assessed value by 1%. The village as a whole increased in value by 1.74%. You see that on the second to last line. In 2021, that area declined by 8.79%, while the village as a whole declined slightly at 0.85%. And in 2022 tax year, the area increased slightly to 1.46% greater than it had been the year before, but the village as a whole increased by 12.9%. Now, this is a Cook, DuPage, Kane total EAV that's included here. So the point being is that one of the characteristics for identifying the eligibility of the tax increment district is three out of the most recent 5 years did it decline relative to the village as a whole. So that now is identified, and we include that as the fifth characteristic. So eligibility is of certainty at this stage.
What happened in 2019? It went up 36.1.
The area itself had a 36% increase, which was probably related to one individual property being upgraded in value.
That would have been the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, the Dunkin' Donuts, yeah. Yep.
Chrissy, next slide. So what we wanted to do tonight is give you a, under normal circumstance, I'd have a big draft.
Can we go back just 1 second? Do we know what the actual number? So just as a hypothetical, so if we see the 1.46% increase in the whole TIF area in 2022, and in Bartlett in general was 12.9, so that's 11.5%. Do we know what that is in dollars?
Yeah, just above it, you see the EAV of 5.496381 is the area in question.
And then the other one is one.
The village as a whole is,
Yeah.
say this 1,328,177,139 is the equalized assessed value.
So that kind of gives you an idea of the potential of the TIF. Okay.
Again, I would normally put a big draft over this, but by doing that, you wouldn't be able to see the details. So I'm gonna ask that we go to the next slide and sort of zoom in a little bit. What we've done here as the staff, we've talked about the potential that redevelopment could induce. So, Chrissy, if you can show a relocated Oak Avenue and Bartlett Road, that's the black line in the middle. So at the, sort of across the top, you get Lake Street itself, but that black line in the middle represents, first, what does the comprehensive plan say? So going back to the comprehensive plan, there was a proposed relocation of that road. So second, so all of this depends very much on whether or not the state of Illinois will choose to allow some of the area that they included within right-of-way for the Elgin O'Hare Expressway to be released from that, allowing development to occur. That's a significant portion of this area. So I'm going to ask that we go to the next slide to zoom in on that furthest west section. The yellow there is showing Area A. In our discussion with staff, we talked about if this area is developed, it's totally undeveloped at this point. That is part of the area that's included within the state's control. That yellow would back up to the single family along Leela Lane to the west and Ford Lane on the south. If we get development in this area, it's always going to be easier for like uses to back up to each other. So in this case, we would suggest similar density, similar types of housing that's currently in Leela and Ford being a buffer, if you will, to other development that would occur. The area B, which is a gold color we're showing here, is a medium density multifamily. this is land use, it's not zoning, but if you looked at it as being zoning, it might be something closer to the SR6 density. As all of this works well if we actually have the property to develop. Obviously, if the state of Illinois won't allow for this property to be developed and they continue to hold it, then we don't have the ability to develop this area. But as the property is closest to this realigned Oak Street, we see the potential for either side of that being a commercial development. The area D north of Lake Street and area E, these are essentially, one was an existing abandoned gas station, the other being a long time ago abandoned gas station site. Both of these we'd be showing, because of the size of these, if it's commercial, it's likely to be convenience level or gas station, something like that. If we move to the east slightly, now we have that relocated Oak Street on the western edge. Again, the area closest to that intersection, which could be provided with access, both potentially from Lake Street, but more likely from that relocated Oak Street, that again could be commercial along the Lake Street corridor. Transitioning slightly further east where the existing Oak Street tees into Lake Street, you have the existing shopping center. And what makes that development potentially a substantial increase is if we can make those lots deeper than they currently are. They taper, if you will, to a point as you go to the east. The question we can't answer, but we have to pose from a long-term planning perspective is, can we work with the school district to take property, let me not use the word take, to
collaborate. They like to use the term collaborate. And I already talked to Suzanne, and I said, we need to collaborate with you on this project.
We need to collaborate on the potential for using some of the property on their northern boundary to deepen the commercial property along Lake Street itself.
And I would just add that they aren't using it for anything.
Well, there's
no
play fields on the eastern side of the school itself. Those could be rearranged. What we're showing here is if we're relocating Oak Street itself to control the access there, perhaps we have the opportunity of swapping property so that the area that is on the western side of the existing Oak Street could then become additional play fields and other things, whether it's parking, et cetera.
Because there won't be nearly as much traffic on that road after that.
Absolutely. That's I would hope, a plus. Part of the reason for the area G being, again, single family in that yellow one, it backs up to single family, and two, it's not likely to generate a lot of traffic along that road itself. Let's see if we can go further to the east. So carrying that same idea of a greater, deeper commercial corridor to the east, that again is poses the potential for what I would say is contemporary retail development rather than the retail that existed in the 1950s when that road was developed with hot dog stands and the other things. Area K, which is north of Lake Street, but still within the village, may likely resemble a kind of light industrial that's actually to the north in Streamwood.
Is there anything there now?
Pardon?
Okay.
I believe it's vacant.
Vacant right now. It used to be Spalding Movers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's different before that, wasn't it? Quite a number of.
Lincoln, where was the restaurant at? Lincoln Park, yeah. Okay.
Then getting into Area J, again, likelihood of medium density multifamily development in that location. Go ahead, one. So where does that take us? If you're looking at this as we are as being potential, we we have to take it to what are the likely things to encourage this development to occur. These are, again, the eligible expenses that a TIF district can support. We will include within the redevelopment plan ultimately a line item for each of these with a dollar amount tagged to it. How do we get that number? Well, let's go to the next slide. It's essentially we back into that number. If you looked at the existing EAV within this proposed TIF district of $5.5 million of equalized assessed value, and if all of that development that I just showed you, which is largely all development that doesn't currently exist, there's comparing the $5.5 million, which is essentially that almost entirely in that one shopping center at the corner of Oak and Lake Street. What we did is we looked at the comparable development equalized assessed values of commercial development, of multifamily development, of single-family development. This is Cook County. This is where there's a big black box between market value and what the assessor sees. And so rather than trying to estimate what the market value of all these properties would be, we look directly at what the assessor sees on comparable developments. And then we calculate that, and it comes, in this case, to a potential EAV at the end of the project, however long that lasts, of $90 million. That's a lot of increase in the value of property. That would be $84 million of increased or increment, and that, if you took the present value of the revenue stream that would come off those taxes, might support up to $74 million of project improvements. Now, there's a lot of caveats in that number, and I'm not trying to suggest to you that that's a realistic budget at this point. And one of the biggest input, if you will, into that is how fast does development occur. The faster it occurs, the longer the period that the TIF district collects TIF increment, and therefore the total amount that could be spent for improvements, whether that's road improvements of relocating Oak Street or utility lines or reducing the cost of development for the commercial developers, the faster it occurs, the more money that's available to pay those expenses. In this case, we characterize it as, what if it all built out in the first 10 years? And that's where that number comes from. If it's more realistic to look at this as going to take 15 to 20 to 23, which is the end of the TIF district, then that number has to go down. But when we do the TIF district, we create that cap at the budget line that you can't go beyond unless you redo the TIF district. So rather than, we won't be presenting this number this way, but we will include a number that we think is realistic based on development that may occur in a pace that might happen without essentially limiting you or limiting future village boards to what can be done in the district. But I include this slide largely to give you a sense of the scale of what we're talking about here. This is not a small project. This is not a quick 3 or 5 years that all of this is going to take place. The biggest problem we have with all of the red that I showed you on that Lake Street corridor is retail in Cook County is not moving very fast. That may change. The markets may change. Much of the value that you're seeing to generate those increments are because we've also included residential development within this package. I think that's my last slide. Okay. Questions?
Yeah, do we know, was Hanover Parks, where that Starbucks is and stuff, was that a new TIF district? I think that would be a perfect example of how long it took them to build that out and what the EAV was when they started and what it is now. Yeah, and there's a residential component behind it. It's got all those townhomes. So I would love to see those numbers.
We can get that. That's, they have to file the state.
Yeah, I doubt that, I'm sure it's probably got 15 years left, or at least 10. I don't think that Starbucks has been there for longer than, well, they started the townhouses first. They built up all those townhouses back there.
They started that in like '08, right before the economy crashed.
Was that long
Timing
ago?
is everything.
It was '08, when
Man, I'm
they
old.
sat on those townhomes for quite a while.
I remember.
Could mixed use be put,
No, it's gotta be, the EAV's gotta be.
mixed use be added to the formula? Because the people currently, if you're just running a standalone nightclub or bar, and they're in Cook County, they're gonna get beat up. But if the bar is on the first floor, the restaurant's on the first floor, and the second floor is an apartment, then it's my understanding the taxes are much less for the business owner.
Half, mixed use, yeah.
So could we do that, or can that be incorporated?
Sure. This is not zoning, so the map that we'll ultimately include in the redevelopment plan is not going to control from a zoning standpoint, but we'll make it as flexible as you can
It
expect.
needs to be appealing for the business owner, because right now Cook County's not appealing to the business owner.
Understood.
21% increase.
Just for residential.
I think we're seeing difficulty with vertical mixed use, where it's first floor retail and upper floor residential, but site mixed use, where you can have a commercial site next to a residential site, is easier for the developers to make money at.
We're seeing stuff in the Fulton Market area in the industry I'm in where they're taking a multi-story building and they're putting everything in there. They put a basketball court in the penthouse, apartments underneath there, office underneath there, and retail on the first floor. So they got a little bit of everything. Just food for thought, food for the future.
The whole thing hinges on the state relinquishing that property from
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's just generally the largest piece of the puzzle.
Does IDOT have that whole corridor, or just west of Bartlett Road?
West of Bartlett, it has the majority of the property that we're talking about.
Pretty much east is not.
East, you're talking about property that's held either by the school district or by commercial property owners along Lake Street, or on the very far eastern end, you've got another property owner.
Did we ever find out if, Tom's is leasing from IDOT?
I believe that they are.
That or they're squatting.
Yeah. If this does go through, we may have to put a permanent Tom's in there. We might get railed out of town if we remove Tom's,
Especially during sweet corn
my
season.
wife especially.
IDOT told us this week that they will have a response to our request to vacate that right-of-way, in January. So that will be,
Wow.
nice.
January of 2025?
Oh, 24, which was a little more aggressive than I
Wow.
was thinking.
Okay.
Christie found the answer to your question, Mayor.
Yeah.
So the Hanover Parks TIF was established, the first tax year was 2002. And
I'm old.
that generated $233,305 in revenue the first year. So far in total revenue, it has earned $22,540,872.
Good testimony, yeah. Wow. And I think this is almost identical as far as car counts and business, the type of businesses it would attract, and the opportunity for residential and commercial.
Or car dealer.
Or car dealer,
What are
yeah,
next-
that whole corridor. We
What are
could
next
come
steps?
to the next Irving Park Road of Elgin.
What are the next steps after?
Next steps, a little bit of pacing ourselves as the property owners move forward
Okay.
with the annexation, but at the same time, we have to prepare that redevelopment plan that can go to the public hearing.
Okay.
In January, if this continues along the track that we're hoping, we'll come back to you with a resolution that says this would be the public hearing date. Until you establish that public hearing date, all of the other dates for the joint review board and the other activities, that has to fall on from that point forward.
Got it.
All right. Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman Gandsey. Finally, on our agenda this evening, we have License and Ordinance Committee, Chairman Hopkins.
Thank you, President Wallace. We have the video gaming class discussion. In response to concerns raised by the village board about the proliferation of video gaming focused establishments in the village, staff conducted research to examine how other municipalities differentiate between various types of businesses with video gaming. To address the expansion of video gaming, the village would need to limit the number of core licenses. Staff has suggested recommendations to regulate video gaming and distinguish between restaurants with gaming and gaming cafes. Neighboring communities have looked at factors such as the type of alcohol served, seating capacities, kitchen facilities, order placement, square footage, menu offerings, and a buffer zone from other gaming locations to help determine and regulate cafes. Additionally, staff recommended amending existing liquor licenses and introducing add-on licenses for both restaurants and video gaming cafes while grandfathering in existing gaming locations. With that, does staff have anything to add?
That's pretty much it. We're really just kind of looking for, the board's view on, if we want to do any additional regulations for gaming, facilities, or if we just kind of want to make small adjustments to our current system. But
Any questions from the committee?
When I was reading through this, it just seems like there's so many variables, there's so many different, unrelated ways that you can regulate it, so I couldn't put my head around what we were thinking about what to do. So I don't know what everybody else thinks, but at one point we were leaning toward the kitchen size, but I think that went by the wayside. So I don't know. I didn't see any common sense to the type of alcohol served.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it would be fair. You're right.
Mayor, I think a lot of what you're getting at is a lot of these criteria that the other towns use are mushy, right? And they're pretty easy to sidestep. I can give you a menu, and what I actually produce could be a different thing, and the kind of alcohol I serve can be a different thing. I think one of the issues that the board has expressed, number 7 there, the buffer from other gaming locations, that's a pretty hard and fast one. The ability to do the add-on liquor license really does give you the more flexibility, and Kurt, if maybe you want to talk about the add-on, or Sam, I think that is a way to get at the increased control that the board was looking for, to control it through that additional liquor license, and then establishing some, I think, more hard and fast, less subjective criteria, like the seating capacity and square footage, may be a little more concrete than some of those other items.
I think overall, the add-on license would give the village board the ability to say, here's the maximum amount of establishments that are going to have video gaming. And you'd still be able to increase the number of liquor licenses for a restaurant without video gaming, and knowing that that restaurant can operate, but they're not going to have video gaming. So it's a way to kind of curtail the expansion of video gaming through that add-on license, and you'll always have the right to increase the number of add-on licenses as well. So if we think, we can stomach more video gaming, we could increase the number of add-on licenses for restaurants while not increasing the number of add-on licenses for video gaming cafes.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea. And I like the buffering. I think the buffering and the add-on license were the two that really jumped out at me. The buffering, so you don't have one strip mall that has 8 places you can throw a rock at and go play video gaming. I think at some point it's kind of they start eating each other, right? At some point somebody's going to fail.
Because right now they can have 50%, up to 50% right. So if we had a buffer, that would.
So,
those are the two I thought.
So I actually reached out to one of the gaming providers today in response to this. And they said that they've already seen a reduction in the gaming cafes, foot traffic, and revenue, because a lot of these guys that open these cafes up are realizing that people just don't walk in when they can go here, 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 here. So they're looking at areas to reinvent themselves, whether it be adding food or different type of bar or whatever it may be that they want to add, from hot dog stands to, full-blown restaurants. They're already seeing something that I had said a couple meetings ago, that it's self-regulating. I mean, to a certain extent, if a guy's going to put $50,000 to $100,000 build out and he's not making it, that gaming cafe, those games get pulled, and they have a certain threshold they have to produce. So, buffering, it's not a bad idea.
But at the same side, the other side of the coin is we don't have vacancy rates now. So, as the entrepreneur, whether it's a gaming cafe or not, they're paying the rent to the landlord, the space is not vacant. Whether people patronize it or not, it's another story.
So let me try to figure this out in my simple brain. Would we be able to use the add-on extensions as a tool to buffer?
Yes, so the add-on license would mean any new establishment coming in is going to have to comply with those buffers. So everything that we would have right now would stay the same. They'd be able to continue to operate, but if there was a new location coming in, then they'd have to comply with those buffers.
With any gaming terminal? So even if it's a restaurant?
Well, we could decide to have it only be from a gaming cafe or from any establishment that has gaming altogether, so that's up to the board.
And we'd have to write a definition, or do we have a definition already of what delineates the two? Do we have something like that in our
That's what we would
ordinance now?
work.
Then we would have to actually create new ordinance that delineates cafe and...
And that's what some of those examples are, of what other communities define a cafe based on those factors. But if we did want to create those add-on licenses, we would have a cafe license and then just a general restaurant video gaming license.
Did we talk to someone at Schaumburg or Carroll Street? I understand we got this data, but did any of them implement this after gaming, like at this point in time, or was it from the beginning?
Yeah, so, Schaumburg originally didn't allow gaming until I think it was 2019. So theirs, when they made it, they didn't have anything. So they limited it to, I believe, 5 gaming cafes under the definitions that they provided. Carroll Streams was in 2022 recently, and theirs was after the fact. They already had establishments
And so do they have any, information, like how that went or what it did, like the impact?
Yeah, so they have the limit at how many gaming cafes they already had. So they're looking at, there's 2 more that have applied. They're considering them. They may or may not add more. But yeah, right now they're tapped, and they can make the choice to add more if they want.
So do we have the gaming cafes, the actual cafes, from the street, the sidewalk, it seems that you don't see the terminals, right? They seem to be behind there's cafes, there's tables, but then the actual gaming is behind a wall.
Most of them are like that.
Or like that, but did something open up next to, ISIS,
Where?
right here in the town center?
ISA.
Do you mean Maze?
Is that Maze?
This is across the street?
You talk about Yummy Pool.
They've been here for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know, I was by there, and maybe it was just dark, and I don't normally go by there and it's dark, but it just seemed very gamish in something from the sidewalk. It didn't seem like there was a buffer there. I mean, as far as visual from the street.
It's just a standard build-out, 2,400
Standard build-out.
square foot. They put their games on the one side, there's a couple of couches and tables, very basic. My opinion is if you're actually trying to stop gaming cafes from coming in, you have to require a kitchen with a menu. And that's the only way you would deter gaming cafes from coming here, because they want to come in, they want to do a $50,000 build-out, $100,000 build-out, and start pumping money out of the machines or into the machines. They never pump it out. But it also pushes the need that we have for, you know, hot dog stands, beef stand, you know, different businesses. And when the gaming fails, we have kitchen units available. I can tell you that Wheaties, if it was required, they wouldn't have gotten rid of their food, you know? They would have maintained that. So.
We have, just on this list here, there's over a half dozen that really don't have commercial kitchens.
Correct.
Those are all the cafes.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the other side of the coin, if you're, you know, I truly feel it's self-regulating to a certain extent, but if we want to see different types of businesses come in, then we can require a full kitchen, restaurant. I mean, that's the only.
Are we able to do that, though, also with the, instead of requiring kitchen, are we able to do that with the add-on?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe that's the first step, where the board can consider, hey, are we gonna add the add-on to this liquor license, or are we not going to add an add-on to this liquor license? Maybe that's the first step.
I agree.
Because if somebody comes in with a really, really great brick oven pizza and they don't have a commercial kitchen and everybody loves it and they want a license down the road and small enough, I'm just thinking thinking out loud right now.
The gaming takes their risk out.
Oh, yeah.
It covers,
Some of it.
it covers a lot of their overhead, so that's why they want it.
Sure.
You know.
And I don't want to discourage anyone from opening a business in the village either, because we generate revenue on that.
We do.
Well, are we just gonna require them to have a commercial kitchen? Do they have to then have a menu, or do they just have to have the kitchen?
I think, I'm not a big fan of the commercial kitchen idea just because of I think it's a lot fewer places you could do that with strip malls because of all the venting and all the other stuff. But I'm a fan of the add-on, creating some more dialogue around the add-on licensing. That's my opinion. In my mind, it gives us more control without being too restrictive to somebody that's really like a smaller business that wants to open up a nice place.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's the way it would work.
Because even if it's self-regulating, even if it takes like 5 years for it to self-regulate, I would hate to miss out like on other places that want to move in.
Yeah.
That would be a good part of the mix of the type of businesses we have.
Right. And we have to think forward too, 10 years down the road, if this TIF goes in, do we really want a whole line of gaming places along the TIF corridor? So, maybe only in the hotel of the lobby we're gonna put there, hotel lobby. So, we want to see Kurt write up some stuff about how that would work with add-ons, and we can redo more of that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any other comments from the committee? That's all we have under licenses and ordinances.
Thank you, Chairman Hopkins. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By trustee Daney, seconded by trustee Laporte. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Daney?
Yes.
GANDSEY?
Yes.
Epstein?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Swansky?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
George, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So, the numbers,
We're gonna have to redo the levy.
Okay. Yeah.
know what's happening.
Take vitamin C, you'll be
Tell you what,
fine.
Friday Peg and I went in, got our flu shot and our COVID shot. She was so sick Friday night, it was unbelievable.
Maybe it's a little too much,
Huh?
a little too much at one time.
Yeah.
Oversaturation?
Yeah, on September 4th, I was.
Timely.
And then Saturday,
Doing the Rotary luncheon, and you laugh at me like this, Thursday, November 7th.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you
Probably have to
pay
do-
that, or after we pay? Regular month.
What is the date?
Oh, December 7th, Thursday?
Rotary Chamber where they install their new people. Yep, I go to that every year.
Well, it's.
Yeah.
I think the village,
Nasty,
yeah.
nasty.
and Angstrom's getting the Ralph Tovar Award. Yeah.
Yeah.